Band of Heathens. Gordy and Ed, welcome. And thanks, that's such a cool idea. Who came up with the project concept of just covering that entire Ray Charles record?
Well, it kind of, the idea started slowly as just falling in love with the record initially and then realizing it was really hard to find, that it wasn't on any of the streaming services. And so, yeah, we just were driving around one day talking about how great it was and was like, well, why don't we cover one song? And then it was just like, well, let's just do the whole thing and just see if it's cool.
Right.
And if it isn't, then it was a fun experiment.
Yeah.
You know? And
as I understand it, there's a bit of a sad or a bittersweet sort of launch to the project because it had involved the studio a friend of yours had and
yeah, a good friend and mentor of ours, George Reef, passed away last year, and we've kind of taken over his recording studio, and it was in his home where he lived, and it's kind of become our home base, trying to kind of keep what he created alive. And this is one of the first projects we started messing around in there since he passed, and it's definitely the first record we finished in that space. So.
And so once you dove in, once you started doing the songs, you realized, I mean, it is a bold move for anybody to say, oh yeah, I have a great idea, let me cover a Ray Charles record. It's sort of like it's a big step, but it worked. And did you ever feel like somewhere along the way, it's like, wow, we've really gotten ourselves into something we can't get out of? Or
I think before we started recording, and like Gordy said, we had the luxury of not really feeling the pressure of, going into a studio and kind of being committed to these, whatever, the fixed expenses of being in the studio and the clock running. So we had a nice relaxed atmosphere, and within that, I think, all the thinking and sort of like pre-preparation that you do before you even start producing or working on your record, all the mental gymnastics that you play. I think once we got in and started actually making music, the first day went great, and we did a couple songs. We're like, that was really good. And then the next day, the same thing. And then by like the third day, it's like, okay, I think we're gonna get something cool here.
Yeah.
So I think once we kind of just got away from it a little bit, it started happening.
It is an unusual collection of songs on that record. I mean, really, it's covering some, all the way from, Abraham Martin and John to John Denver's, Country Roads. There's some wacky stuff on there.
Yeah, the most intimidating one we saved for last. Actually, we were scared to record it because it's his definitive version of America the Beautiful. Yeah. And it was like, what are we going to do with this?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, like Ed said, it was very low pressure. We were just like, hey, let's just see what happens.
Did Quincy Jones produce that record originally, Ray Charles record?
I think he did. I know he did a bunch of the string arrangements. I think he's listed as one of the producers on the record.
Has he been made aware of your project?
He heard the record and gave us a really nice quote about it, and then
that's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, very generous of him. And then very strangely, like a month later, we were in Switzerland playing the Montreux Jazz Festival, and we ran into him at an after party and got to hang out with him for like a half hour. It was pretty mind-blowing. Very cool to talk to him about the record.
Wild.
Yeah.
Have you seen that new documentary that's it's on Netflix about Quincy Jones?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. We were in just talking to him about the number of records that he worked on, and we know these records. So we're asking specific questions. He's like, man, I don't remember, man. He's like, I worked on like 1,500 records, I mean, he had very specific things, and other things was just kind of like
who played the sax solo on that one thing? It's like,
exactly.
I don't know. Yeah. That's so cool. And so, and now that studio is your home base. Does anybody in the band live there?
Kind of.
Yeah. Because I want to mention that you also are donating the proceeds of the project to charity.
Yeah. Yeah. We figured that this record was kind of an experiment and just a way to honor Ray Charles and to also just raise some of the issues that were going on in 1972 that seem to still be at the forefront of today's culture. Equality and abuse of power and just it was. We figured, hey, let's just try this.
Yeah. And as the song says, put some money back in your neighborhood, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Which led me to my earlier question. As you're giving the money away and the Austin rents are going up, that's why I thought, of course, you're living in the studio. These guys are living in the studio.
No, the studio... The studio is, so we're kind of spread out. 2 of us live in Austin, a couple guys live in LA, and Ed lives in North Carolina. So when we are all in Austin, it kind of is a clubhouse for some of the guys that are out of town.
Right.
Yeah, and we're, we're working a lot, so it's good.
You're on the road a lot. When you're, but now with the studio, and now that you guys have sort of broken it in and it's become your spot, do other artists want to just buy the whole package? It's like, well, I'm going to get the studio and these guys, and let's do some tracking and see what happens.
For the right price.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, we've done that before. We've done a bunch of studio work with different artists, and it's fun. It's like it's an exercise in kind of getting out of your own comfort zone and trying something new, and it's been really a fun, creative exercise for us.
Well, you guys got off to such a strong start, 2006, 2007, 2008. I mean, it was just a sort of magical time for the band, and Austin City Limits, and the best new band in Austin, and Americana Awards, and all that stuff. It's hard to be a band, and it's hard to tour. It's hard to maintain all that stuff. It's hard to keep the momentum and the creativity going. And so where do you feel like you are now at this stage, 12 years later or whatever it is? You feel like you're hanging together and exploring new territory and opening up new chapters, or does it feel like, boy, you're sort of fulfilling the expectations of your fans who are out there looking for you, or what's going on?
Well, I don't think we've ever been really good at fulfilling anyone's expectations of anything, which is kind of why we became a band in the first place.
Right.
But, I think we survived our midlife crisis period pretty well. And we're moving on into adulthood, but with a vigor and a youthfulness,
Yeah.
So, no, it's cool, really.
Good answer.
We've been playing for a long time, and there's so much great music coming out now. And, honestly, I've had the good fortune of just getting to meet a lot of up-and-coming artists that we really dig a lot, and getting to work with them and collaborate with them, and it's like, it's all the same language, so it's sort of like, someone can ask you advice, you could tell them, hey, like, we did this, maybe you don't want to do that, or maybe you should try that, and yet we're able to be inspired by being around, other artists that are kind of just getting started on their journey, which is cool too.
No, it's cool. It's a beautiful community that you're part of, and it's just great. It's great to get to hang out with you guys. Great to hear you. Congratulations on the Ray Charles record. Again, as I say, a bold move, and you pulled it off.
Thanks.
So
Thanks, Nick.
Let's get back to music. Welcome back, if you would, band of Heathens. Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.